Between the two of them, the inside of Coates, Parker gets too heavily involved. And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Factor 1 days, and our Factor 2 feels like it's older than PlayStation itself. So it's going to be relatively exciting into the first corner, which is extremely narrow. I do apologise if you didn't hear any of our fantastic and scintillating commentary, because it always is scintillating, as you can imagine. Oh, that's fantastic, Elaine can hear us now, which is always very nice. The cars go brr, as Dave says. So yes, if anybody couldn't hear us before while we were doing the whole build-up and the prelude to the whole thing, we've got about 3 minutes. We'll run you through it now a little bit more. Of course, my name is Jack Oliphant. I do thank you for tuning in, and I am joined by Rich Hayden doing the broadcast, and as you can imagine, he's trying to do the best broadcast he can right now, so I won't bring him in. He wants to make sure that all the little niggles are settled and down, so won't bring him in. But Andy McCune is unfortunately not with us this week, and hopefully he will be with us next week, and we do apologise for the lack of stream. It is my fault last week. You can blame the chicken I had the night before, and we probably shouldn't say anything more about it. But yeah, unfortunately, a lack of commentators, i.e. me, being ill, meant that we couldn't watch the great racing. And apparently it was very good racing. Thomas Potter, who's qualified in 3rd position, I do believe, won the, I think it was the reverse grid race number 2. Which is pretty spectacular considering he's fairly new to the championship and, well, the VRRC as a whole, and only 12 years old as well. So well done to him. And you can see a little bit further down the order as well, Josh Martin got the driver of the round last week, but this week it's not gone really his way so far. He's down in 14th, which unfortunately is a little bit more of a commonplace that we see Josh Martin sort of semi-recently, especially in qualifying. He himself has admitted that he doesn't have any qualifying pace. Bit of a shame, but there is still 4 weeks left of this championship to go, and I'm just trying to find the, there it is, the calendar. We are off to Portimao next week, a track that VRRC has frequented quite often. Hungaroring is round 7, and then we finish off with a brilliant Silverstone GP. This is, of course, the BMW M135 Cup. It's with twin turbos, hybrid boosts galore. It's a very exciting championship that the drivers have very much got on board with. The rear-wheel drive version of the little touring car has certainly been a huge success considering the amount of front-wheel drive championships we do. And coming off the back of the World Endurance League that we did a couple of weeks ago, and in between all our major championships, the drivers really do like to get the grips with something else a little bit different. Is always exciting. Oschersleben is a track that we haven't done that much of. I did bang on about that quite a lot in the prelude, but it's got a little bit of a tight first corner, and you'll have probably seen that plenty of times if you were watching the qualifying and watching the previous stream. That's going to be very interesting if the likes of Ben Smith gets a little bit of an iffy start. He will start on the outside. He will have the racing line going into that first corner, but if he has a bit of an iffy sort of moment, a couple of attempts down potentially on the reaction, then Andy Carroll could be right up the inside and causing major headaches for the rest of the field. 5 seconds ago, the engine notes are rising, the lights are about to come on, and for the first race here at Oschersleben, for the BMW M135i Cup, powered by VRRC, we will be racing. Hold on to your sofas, because I'm sure it'll be very exciting. Oh, it's a slow start by Andy Carroll. Thomas Potter actually might have the opportunity to go around the outside. Ben Smith gets a pretty decent start. Lovely run into the first corner. He will have the whole track to play with. The brilliant racing line as Andy Carroll tries to fend off Thomas Potter. Hopefully they all keep it nice and clean. Potter around the outside, and for the first apex means he's on the inside for the second, and he gets that second place. I'm sure there are plenty of people in the YouTube chat who are very excited about that one as the young lad gets up into second. That means that Andy Carroll has dropped down. Scott Bugner is also still in 4th place. Oliver Gibbs and Joel Lask. Jack Smith hasn't managed to make any move further forward, so they were warned about the first corner in driver's briefing, and well, they looked like they heard it. We'll see what the reverse grid brings, obviously, where it's always a little bit more chaotic as Thomas Potter goes a little bit wider, and maybe he's just trying to get that later apex. It's always a bit risky though. It's more of a qualifying line when you leave the apex basically open for grabs, because you could see a driver from behind so go and try and put their car there. It's just a little bit risky really, but it does seem to have worked out for Thomas Potter. But Ben Smith is the driver who's really worked out for, hasn't he? Absolutely blown away with this one. For the time being, he's probably got about 3 or 4 tenths of a second to his name, probably even further than that actually. If you look at it, if you're just eyeballing it, that's over half a second, isn't it? He's looking absolutely stunning at the moment. Andy Carroll in third, Scott Bugler in fourth. The top 5 rounded out by Oliver Gibson. Having a look further back and seeing if anybody has made any other kind of moves, notable drivers that we'd like to keep an eye out on. But as going into the first corner, the first lap is completed, the fight for third place is about to open up, because that was a very, very missed braking zone by Andy Carroll, and that will open up the door for a few of the drivers. Oliver Gibson wanting the inside line on Scott Bugner, and I think he might just about get his car alongside. No, not quite. Bugner gets the throttle down, and there's a big lunge coming from Joel Lask, I think that is, just behind Oliver Gibson. Going to force him out wide, and loses the place as well. Joel Lask gets that move done and dusted. Didn't need any second invitation. Craig Curtis gets ahead of Jack Smith, who has said previously that he's struggling with the weight of this car, which is exactly what we sort of hope to hear, I suppose. The ballast, I'm sure it's not what Jack Smith fans out there want to know. But the weight, obviously, the ballast that we have to keep putting on this car, because it is just too quick, to be honest. And the championship ballast, you don't add any more on that other people would be allowed. But the fact that he is so high up on the driver ranking, and he is first in the championship, means he gets the maximum amount of ballast that we are allowed to inflict on a car. You may well have noticed, wondering why some of the cars are absolutely flying past others and potentially missing braking zones, as you saw Andy Carroll a little bit before. Well, I think it's the hybrid that's causing a few issues with a few drivers who haven't maybe necessarily practiced Oschersleben as much, and then not practice anywhere near as much with the hybrid as well. And missing braking zones can be massively important. Lee Pearcey slots at the inside. Oh, there's a turned around. Craig Curtis, actually. He didn't slot at the inside of Craig Curtis. He slotted at the inside of somebody else. I think it was Paul Laramie. Craig Curtis looked like he was parked the wrong way on the apex. He does seem to be got back going now, but he's hurt massively down into 15th place. So Lee Pearcey will have to do the work on Brad Smith, who is the Orange Phoenix car. Just missing the apex there, but managing to carry good momentum and hold off Lee Pearcey for the time being. Ben Smith and Brad Smith have at least done the courteous thing and separated themselves massively on the track, and do have different liveries now, which does help an awful lot, as Paul Laramie tries to answer back on Lee Pearcey. Sorry, Rich, I don't know if I heard you coming in there. It is a lot easier. I appreciate it massively, whoever made that decision that they were going to have to do that, or whether they made their own decision so they could at least be told apart on the track. Thomas... Oh, did it really? Okay, well, fair enough. Yeah, the Phoenix simulating, I suppose, they do love their orange, don't they? So you can understand why Brad Smith was keen on it. And Josh Martin's keen on a move, isn't he? As he tries to sling one up the inside of Lee Pearcey, finds himself moving down 2 positions in a matter of half a lap. It could be 3 in the matter of 1 lap, to be honest, because Nathan Smith finds a nice little move at the inside. He's loose on the exit, though, and almost gets it messed up back into Lee Pearcey, who, there's a big melee as my screen just froze for a second, of Lyall as well. And they all had to get themselves back turning the right way. That did seem like a bit of a hit. Rich, I'll be honest, I know you're busy putting out fires on the street, but I didn't quite see it. Did you get any kind of eyes on that? Absolutely will, yes. Sorry, Rich. Keep putting out those fires and making sure the sound is correct. That's the important thing. We'll try keeping our eyes on the race itself, as Andy Carroll still in 3rd place. Sorry, no, he's actually 4th, isn't he now? Scott Bugner's overtaken. Joel Lask is the driver who's on the move, though, because he has just put in a purple sector 1. I wonder how much practice Joel Lask was able to put in before going. I was curious on that, to be honest. I was thinking, you know, it's rare to see Joel Lask struggling with any kind of pace, but in the minis at least, we sort of saw him overcome the compensation ballast, overcome the fact that he was a heavy car just by how quick he was in the minis. But here in the BMW, it does seem to, I think, overall equal the playing field mass. It's very hard for someone to nerf Jack Smith enough so he's not just winning races outright all the time. So I think this BMW does struggle to carry the weight a little bit, and it could come down to who has the least weight going into the final round at Silverstone, or maybe the final couple of rounds, because the back end just seems very loose on a few of these cars. But Thomas Potter can't really claim that as an excuse because he doesn't have much compensation weight on board, and his back end is sliding around a little bit too loose for my liking. I'm hoping that it won't be too bad for him in the long run, but the problem is if you keep sliding the car around, it may well be very fun, it may well look good. It doesn't. It's not very conducive to a fast car in the last half of a race, though. The back tyres, especially on these rear-wheel drive BMWs, get overcooked, get overworked, and then all of a sudden you're struggling for grip in the latter sections. You can't get off the corners, and then all of a sudden you're basically open for overtakes going into the next couple. I can tell you that we're talking about weight a lot, and Thomas Potter is about to launch some kind of move actually though on Ben Smith. He's on the hybrid. He was looking interested. It's very close into the back end. No contact yet. He's forcing the move on Ben Smith. I don't think there was any contact there, so he's just showing his nerve, trying to get Ben Smith to panic and maybe make a mistake. Ben Smith just about saw the driver on the inside of his car, backed out of the apex just enough to hold on to it and hold on to first place as Thomas Potter's back on the hybrid. He's got the taste of race wins now. He wants more of them, but it's going to have to be a little bit closer when he hits the hybrid button than that, going into Ben Smith into the latter stages. We see an overtake, I think, potentially happening between Andy Carroll and Joel Lask for fourth position just in the background, but Thomas Potter absolutely flying. I'm trying to see, he's only got 3 kilograms of ballast on board. That's 1, 2, 3 kilograms. Whereas the likes of Ben Smith is 22 kilos of ballast on board. And the people ahead of him, or around him, I should say, actually, Scott Bugner, how many? He won't have actually that much on board. Yeah, he's only got 8 kilos. So you can see that the front lot at Oschersleben do seem to be the lighter cars, which is sort of what we like to see. It is the way it's supposed to be. Oops. Yeah, I completely agree. And Scott, as we know, has been around VRRC for a long time. He is not shy in making a move, in asserting himself, shall we say. And I know Thomas Potter is trying his best to mix with it and obviously being a bit ambitious himself, but there's a difference between knowing when the move's on and being ambitious and maybe the move not quite being on and yet being ambitious. And it's nice to see Thomas Potter sort of pushing the edges a little bit of what his experience probably dictates. But it's Scott Bugner and Ben Smith you'd probably be looking at and thinking they've probably got the slight advantage here if you looked at it on paper. But speed-wise, very, very equal. Hybrid-wise, though, Rich, it's not very equal, is it? Because I think Ben Smith, do correct me if I'm wrong, is he on 10 or 11? Okay. Oliver Gibson's on 13 or something as well. But Thomas Potter, no matter how many hybrids he'll have remaining, no matter how many hybrids the people around him will have remaining, it won't help if he keeps missing apexes. And he has missed 1 or 2. He's had probably 1 or 2 laps when he really hooked it up, and he's been absolutely flying and he's been completely on it. But he hasn't had the consistency that we would expect for someone maybe go for those race wins. And as I said, that's maybe why you would say it's slightly favouring in terms of the bookies' favourites, Ben Smith and Scott Bugner for the time being. But every time Thomas Potter gets to grips with it and stops making those little mistakes, he is getting away from the likes of Scott Bugner, and he does catch up to Ben Smith. They both use the hybrid then, going into that sort of back straight, and yet Thomas Potter was the driver who pulled in about half a second, and he's right on the back of Smith now as well. So it's just those small mistakes, consistency, that Thomas Potter needs to absolutely nail, as Ben Smith then uses the hybrid again. Scott Bugner does as well, and Thomas Potter not getting baited into it, so they're all on an equal playing field now. As they go in, Potter though again locking up too hot into it, and he wasn't the driver who used the hybrid, so he can't even say that he didn't expect the speed going into the first corner. But those are the little mistakes. He can be so quick, he can catch right up to the back of him, but he can't quite stay there, and unfortunately it's not good enough to catch up to the back and overtake the likes of Ben Smith or Scott Bugner on one occasion. He needs to stay there and force him into a mistake, because otherwise Ben Smith, all he has to do is ride it out until Potter makes a mistake. Looking further. Oh, carry on, Rich, carry on. He is. Exactly, yeah, no, I'm completely on board with it, and I could agree with it, but it's almost like, I remember commentating on handball once, and to be fair, racing as well, actually, where you're sort of commentating, you've got to commentate on everybody in the same way. I'll get back to it in a minute, because Scott Bugner is about to launch an attack, and an attack he launches as well, right up the inside into the final corner. Thomas Potter couldn't really do much about it, and Bugner gets straight on the hybrid to try and defend that position going into the first corner, and I think that's going to work into his favour. Ben Smith, in fact, I think this might actually work into Thomas Potter's favour, as long as he doesn't get sort of caught up with the fact that he's trying to overtake Scott Bugner again and try and get into second place. If he can use Bugner to overtake Smith and then get a 2-in-1 sort of deal, and that'd be really key, and that'd be a very mature bit of racing as well. Because whether or not Bugner has the pace on Smith, the only driver that seems to be able to catch up to Smith has been Potter. But going back to the sort of the way I sort of talk about the drivers on the grid and everything like that, in my opinion, he is a young lad. If we were doing a junior championship, he'd be one of the faster, potentially more experienced drivers that we have, obviously, here at VRRC. But you sort of, if you're good enough to race with these, like, you've got to be good enough to learn the sort of mistakes as well and have them pointed out. And I'm sure Thomas is a very mature young lad, because if he's improved this much so far, it means he has to be able to take constructive criticism. And he's absolutely got to put the miles in and keep going, because he's clearly quick enough and good enough to be here. Hopefully he can sort of gain that confidence and gain the experience he needs going forward. I feel like it's a bit of a Thomas Potter show so far, but to be honest, he is the driver that has provided the most entertainment towards the front end of this field anyway. And the top three are a very, very close battle right now. We have spoken about Andy Carroll and the likes of Joel Lask and Scott Bugner many, many years. So it's about that time that we get some fresh blood at the sharp end, which is nice. Speaking of other blood that is not necessarily as fresh and is not necessarily at the sharp end either, it's Oliver Gibson and Jack Smith struggling in 6th and 7th place. Oliver Gibson with all those hybrids to the advantage. I thought he was going to actually move forward, but he really hasn't utilised them at all. Hasn't actually been using these. One of the few drivers that's still got double figures. Did you say that Scott Bugner was on 4? Wow. Okay, so Scott Bugner, at some point, that has to start hurting him. I mean, well, that's what I was thinking, and yeah, I don't know what the plan is. I just don't know whether he's not used them because he didn't know how quickly other people were using them, and his strategy, his finish is completely different. Oh, Thomas Potter. He has, I don't know where he's gone. He is down in 7th. No, I saw him falling down on the timing tower, to be honest, and then I thought, oh, maybe it's just a glitch because we were following Oliver Gibson and we didn't see him pass Thomas Potter, but he must have done somewhere. He must have gone wide. Yeah, you're right. I can't see. He hasn't had it coming together with anybody else, as far as we're aware, because everybody else is still there. Yeah, and we haven't seen any damage prompts come up on our timing screens or anything like that, which is normally a good indication of if someone's had it coming together. We haven't seen it. So there is a driver on the left-hand side as well, though. Was that Chris Blakey? Someone's parked on the outside. No, it's a Smith. It's a Brad Smith? I think it's Brad Smith, isn't it? Yeah, Brad. Nathan Smith. Sorry, my apologies. Nathan Smith. I was looking at the timing tower and getting them all mixed up instead of the actual screen. So, the fight for the race lead. We've already established that this is probably looking closer than it will end up being due to the fact that there is a disparity of about 3 hybrid usages to the advantage of Ben Smith. But it's always nice to see a bit of action out there on circuit and a bit of feistiness. And well, Scott Bugner almost sort of trying to throw that fake. I think he was a little bit close. I think it was a little bit last minute. But he was trying to catch the attention of Ben Smith to see if he could put him off or maybe make him miss his braking zone. It didn't quite happen. Ben is an experienced racer in himself. As Chris Blakey jumps on the hybrid, so he's just passing Craig Curtis. This is massively close, though. In fact, so close that Ben Smith almost panicked and got on the hybrid before he even got to the corner. That's important, though, because Scott Bugner didn't bother with it. So if Scott is quick enough to catch up to the back of Ben Smith without the hybrid, and Ben has to use it to defend, it could become an even playing field going into the last couple of laps, and that would be crucial for Bugner. If he has any spotters out there, or maybe he's listening to the stream or something, that could be the play that he has to go for. Just not use the hybrids for the next couple of laps. Use his raw pace and make Ben Smith defend using those hybrids. But to be fair, we've probably only got 5 laps left, and Ben has 5 hybrids. So maybe we're bigging something up here, though. It won't really ever come to fruition. I probably do a little bit, but it's all right. 6.5 minutes to go. That's plenty of time. I'll get a drink in 6.5 minutes. I do. If you're offering to take over for 20 seconds, then I will. Well, I mean, to be fair, fastest lap for this championship counts for a lot more than most championships that I commentate on. I mean, 3 points is pretty huge, to be honest. So for Oliver Gibson, who is second place in the championship, trying to hunt down Jack Smith, who he is currently beating on the track as well. Oh, big lunge in the background with Andy Carroll, Joel Lask. And no coming together or anything like that. Oh, yes, there is a coming together, and that's Andy Carroll almost spinning round. Oliver Gibson is right there and wanting to get involved. Joel Lask trying to nudge him wide even further, and that just goes to show that maybe there wasn't any contact, well, from Joel Lask's perspective, because he nudged him even wider. So Andy Carroll maybe just getting a little bit loose. And out Oliver Gibson on the outside, just about holding up a BMW 1 Series space on the track to allow him to actually carry on, but he's going to be on the outside again. That's not going to help him whatsoever. So Joel Lask in 3rd place. Andy Carroll trying to lunge one up in the inside, but it wasn't quite happening. The fight for 3rd has all of a sudden sparked into life, almost as close as the Ben Smith Scott Bugner battle for 1st that we had. Well, Oliver Gibson is planning on using one of those hybrid usages that we've been banging on about so far. He could have 2 in 1 here as Joel Lask. He was going, I think, close to weaving, I would say. I'm not going to say it was weaving. It was close to weaving to try and fend off Oliver Gibson on the straight. But I think Gibson did have to come off the throttle a little bit. He's right up the backside. Does Andy Carroll go straight on? No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Internet thought he did, but he didn't. Yeah. That's always that heart-stopping moment. If that happens in real life, it's a heart-stopping moment in the obviously eSport world. It can just be a glitch, like you said. The fight for first, what is it? Ben Smith with 3, Scott Bunker with 1, Joel Lask with 1, is it not? So Oliver Gibson is the person. I mean, the betting is really on what can Oliver Gibson do? Where can he get up to be honest? Because could he get? I mean, the likelihood is we're expecting him to get 3rd because Joel Lask. Ooh. Yeah, okay, well, I'm a little bit more faith than that, to be honest, especially if Ben Smith and Scott Bugner actually do end up having a bit of a lunge at each other. If they lose half a second, I think that's on, because I'm going to assume that Oliver Gibson is going to get past him in the next minute or so. If not, then Joel Lask is going to use it in the hybrid anyway, but it's crucial that Oliver gets gone, and he's already on the hybrid now to try and get past Lask and basically pull the same move that he pulled on Andy Carroll. Lask doesn't fancy using the hybrid to defend. Maybe he's trying to save one to attack further down the line. Obviously, Gibson gets that position done. He probably needs to go on the start-finish line here and use another one to try and bridge that gap between himself and Scott Bugner, and also not get lunged by Lask. Let's see as he goes round the final corner. Does he get straight back on it? Yes, he does. Yeah, Oliver Gibson trying to pull about half a second as the gap between Ben Smith and Scott Bugner has finally opened up to well over a second. I think it's nearly a second and a half. And Oliver Gibson, as there you go, visually sort of pulls the gap on Joel Lask for the time being. Now, Lask versus Carroll can reignite, but actually, I think the real fight that we're having to look for is Oliver Gibson trying to catch back up, because there is 2 seconds, isn't it now, between him and Scott, with 2 minutes to go. We see a lot of love in the YouTube chat. In fact, there's also a lot of, I don't know whether it's bickering or conversation between Dave and, well, everybody else, to be honest. He likes to look. I'll get back to it. I'll get to that in a second as we start lurching. Not going to get too excited about it this time because there we go. Back. He's doing a really front drift, but is Oliver Gibson is right and he's not cross-country skiing. In fact, everybody seems to be having a bit of a problem, but I think the driver's perspective, they'll all be fine. It's just a little bit of a connection issue towards the back end here, but we can see in the background that potentially there may well be a legitimate pass between Joel Lask and Andy Carroll going into that final sort of back straight. Actually, it's probably well, isn't it? We've got about a minute to go. As Andy Carroll in 4th place, does have Joel Lask crawling all over the back, as Andy Carroll did make that move and get himself into that position. And we are going to have one more lap with Ben Smith on the hybrid. Scott Bugner now doesn't have any left, and Oliver Gibson does, and he's using it as we see Joel Lask and Andy Carroll. Carroll on the hybrid, I think on the inside as well. That is Carroll on the inside, yes it is. As Lask may well have to just give this one up, as he is late on the brakes, but he did get hung out a little bit to dry. So if we keep... We haven't missed anything, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry. Apologies about, again, the technical difficulty. But Ben Smith on the last hybrid, he's not going to get overtaken. But Oliver Gibson, I think he's actually just activated his final one. And there could be an opportunity for him to get 2nd place. It's going to be a bit dicey, though, as Ben Smith, with 1 remaining hybrid, has really been the standout driver. I know a lot of people will be saying it's a shame they didn't quite have the fight that we were promised with Thomas Potter, and that Scott Bugner used too many hybrids early on. But Ben Smith absorbed all the pressure, and a race victory will go his way as a consequence. Scott Bugner held on to second place. Oliver Gibson with a nice charge, and I did say it was going to be a bit closer than everybody thought. He ended up in third. Andy Carroll in fourth, overtaking Joel Lask towards the end there as Thomas Potter rounds out the final corner and will take sixth place. Not as good as he was hoping. A lot learnt there, though, I imagine, from the young Teapot. Chris Blakey was in seventh with Josh Martin in eighth. Craig Curtis in ninth in the end, actually, which is pretty good considering he was well down in 16th place at one point. And Brad Smith in 10th. We are going to go to a very short advert before we bring in the top three of race number one. We'll speak to Ben Smith, Scott Bugner, and Oliver Gibson after this. Well, welcome back after an eventful race number one. I'm glad to say that we do have our top three ready to be interviewed, and I can safely start with Oliver Gibson. Oliver, congratulations on the third place. I have to say, that race, I thought you'd forgotten how to use the hybrids.
So did I. No, I don't know how many laps was it. I have no idea, but I thought it was going to be more than 15. So I saved it for the first few laps, and obviously that's why I lost some positions. And then I just kept using them after that, lap by lap. And then at the end, I realised my maths was wrong, and I had about 6 left, I think. And I was like, oh, here we go. So I was just using it on the main straight and the back straight, and then yeah, I just saw Joel, I think, run out, pushed a pass. I was like, oh, there we go. That's a podium. So yeah, it was a good strategy, even though it was a bit messed up, but I'm happy with it.
I was going to say, I think I'm hoping all that maths revision went to good use, on the exams rather than what you were doing in that race then. But it's great to see you back on the podium, Oliver. Obviously, I don't know if you got one last week or anything like that because we weren't here, unfortunately. But second place in the championship. Really, though, I mean, obviously Jack is struggling with that weight, I'm assuming, on board his car. You're picking up some really nice points, aren't you, last week and this week?
Yeah, it's not been bad. A few times I've been quite lucky. I think definitely last week in race 2, I was quite lucky with incidents in front of me, and I was just picking my way through. And then previous rounds, same again, really, except for Assen, which, to be fair, race 2 was quite lucky as well. Race 1 wasn't the best, but yeah, good points. That's all I could ask for, really. But I don't know what happened to Jack this race. He was right behind me, and then he must have hit the wall or something at the chicane. But yeah, so he's starting 6th for this one. So yeah, that weight is, I think, really affecting him. So I'm just hoping I stay 2nd and I don't get any more, because otherwise I will be in the mud, I think.
I was going to say, is that a case of timing in terms of championship? Going into the penultimate round and the final round, you really don't want that weight on board, and if anything, you'd like to be the underdog rather than the person leading because you don't have that weight.
Yeah, exactly. I've been quite lucky, really, with my weight. I've sort of stayed around the same margin. I think the lowest I went down to was about 27, and I'm on 35 for this one. So mine's not been too bad. So I'm just hoping. Yeah, I'm just hoping the weight sort of stays the same, but it depends after this round. It depends what Jack does in this race, because it looked like quite a poor one in the first one. So in a weird way, I hope I stay 2nd, but you never know. You never know.
Well, that's a good thing about motorsport, Oliver. You do never know. Good luck for race number 2, and well done on the 3rd place.
Cheers, thank you.
Right, so Scott Bugner is the driver who got 2nd, and were you feeling a little bit sweaty at the end there, Scott?
I was, yeah. I used a little bit too much hybrid at the start, and then I kind of shot myself in the foot really because I then realised I had a bit of pace, but I'd used kind of a bit too much. And then I think the leader Ben was quick enough to get away and had a bit more hybrid than I did, I think. But yeah, it was really good. He kept making a few mistakes, so I was trying to get close enough, but I didn't want to keep using more and more hybrid. But then towards the end, I saw Oliver go up to 2nd, 3rd, and I thought, oh no, I've only got 1 lap left. This is all I need. And I know he's good with his hybrid, so yeah, I mean it's under control, but one mistake had got me. So yeah, no, it was good. It was good pace. I think this one might be a bit more tricky because it is one really hard track to overtake.
I was going to ask you, to be honest, about another driver actually, which was Thomas Potter. We didn't see what happened to him. Did you have any idea?
No, I think I got him up the inside into the last corner.
Yeah,
saw
that. Very nice move, by the way.
Well, I didn't want to rub it in, you know. No, yeah. So I got him, and then the next minute, I think just before the corner, just before the far chicane, he disappeared. So I don't know if he hit the curb and lost it. I'm not too sure. But he had really good pace, to be fair. So good on him. It's a shame about that. Could have been a good podium for him. But yeah, I'm not too sure, Jack, if I'm being honest.
No worries. You said that you did have good raw pace in the end. You know, a bit of a hybrid usage or tactics or whatever you want to call it, and it would have been a potential race win. Are you confident going into race 2 that at least you've now got a really good pace behind you as well if you do get a bit of free air?
Yeah, I think, you know, I don't like to sound too big-headed, but I think I was probably one of the quickest, if not the quickest out there. I don't know who got fastest lap, but yeah, it felt good. Obviously, Ben behind me, but you can't. It don't matter how quick you are in these second races. It's all about getting through the mayhem for the first few laps. And like I said, there's only really 2, maybe 3 possibilities of overtaking here, but it's hard. So you don't want to be making contact and getting a slap wrist from Rich on a Monday night.
And he will slap the wrist. He'll crack out the whip if you do it right bad enough.
Well, I haven't been in the steward's office this season, so maybe I'll do one. I don't know.
Keep it that way, Scott. I'm sure. Right, fantastic. Well done on the 2nd place, and good luck for race 2.
Thank you very much.
And our race winner, Ben Smith. You absorbed all the pressure there, Ben. Big congratulations. But I imagine that was at certain points rather sketchy.
Oh, I was really feeling the pressure there, to be fair. Thomas really had me on the ropes at the start, and then he dropped off, and I was thinking, I can relax now. But then Scott just picked up some proper pace, and I didn't have any answer for it. But I think, like he said, he used a lot of the hybrid early, and I saved a few of mine, so I was able to pull away in the end.
I was going to say, just to rub it in, you also finished with 1 more, didn't you, as well? You actually had 1 left in the locker. So did you do the maths? Did you do what Oliver sort of admitted he failed to do and sort of plan that out?
Yeah, I had tried to plan it. I definitely wanted 2 for the last lap. That's all that I'd planned for, because there's really, what I learned from Potter is that they're the only 2 places where the hybrid really comes into play, and he would have had me on a couple of occasions if I didn't sort of retaliate with using mine. So as long as 2's on the last lap, I think I was all fine and dandy.
Well, you were fine and dandy. That's a bit of an understatement, to be honest. Ben, Oschersleben, you didn't have to do any overtaking in that race. That's not going to be the case in this one, is it? I guess that meant you didn't really learn where you can overtake. Is this a make it up as you go along sort of situation now?
Yeah, I think very much so. I've raced this track a little bit before, but not a whole lot. And my previous experience with these reverse grids this season has not been great, apart from Zolder. So I just want to stay out of trouble, maybe hang back a bit at the start and hope for the best.
I've mentioned to Oliver Gibson the championship standings. It would be rude for me not to mention it to you either, being 3rd in the championship and only 15 points behind Jack Smith. Obviously, Jack's not having a particularly good round. I mean, that could change after race 2. We know what he's like. But you and Oliver are having good rounds and everything like that. You don't count yourself out of this championship, do you?
No, certainly not. I think Zolder I peaked and then sort of trailed off a little bit, but hopefully I can now pick it up again and do a few more laps and hopefully stick right at the front and maybe even take the win. Who knows?
I love the confidence. Love the confidence, Ben. Good luck for race number 2. You got about 2 minutes left to go, so I'm going to let you go and get a cup of tea, or not a cup of tea, a wee or something, or whatever you have to do to prepare for the next race. And hopefully we'll speak to you afterwards.
Perfect. Hopefully see you in a bit.
Right, so that was our top 3. Feeling quite confident and seeming quite chatty and happy and everything like that, which is nice as well. Oliver, obviously, I'm sure will probably be recalculating his methods, and Scott Bugner probably do any calculations actually, but he will have learned his lessons anyway. Right in the front, it looks like Thomas Potter on second place. It's not, it's Adam Lyall. With Lee Piercy, who we saw in a little bit of the wars as well. So the rundown of the top 10 to start with will be Lee Piercy on pole position. Adam Lyall alongside her, I think. Is that Olivia? It is, yeah. In fourth, fifth is Kenny Best. Sixth is Jack Smith, who a lot of people would say is a potential favourite for a race win, even with that weight on. And what a rescue for the weekend that would be. I say weekend, I'm getting too used to the real world. What an evening rescue that would be for Jack Smith, actually. Christian is in seventh, Paul Laramie in eighth, Brad Smith in ninth, Craig Curtis in 10th. So realistically, I don't see many race winners in that top 10. Compared to the likes of Jack Smith, I think Craig Curtis is a race winner, obviously, as well. I know that. But a few drivers in that top 10 I can get quite excited about that. I hope that they start and stay at the front end as well. I'm really excited by that one. With only 20 seconds left to go, Josh Martin in 11th, and we'll be hoping for better as well. But it's going to be very exciting to see if Thomas Potter can make his way through. Oliver Gibson, Scott Bugner, and Ben Smith, of course. Good luck to all the drivers. Good luck to those of you who are watching at home as well. The engine notes are rising as the lights are coming on. This final time we're going to be racing in Oschersleben in the BMW M135i Cup, powered by VRRC. What can Lee Piercy do from pole position? Will Adam Lyall get the jump into turn 1? It's even as narrow as it was before, but I imagine for a lot of drivers it's going to feel even more narrow going into that first apex. A couple of drivers ending to go 5 wide towards the back end, but it looks like Lee Piercy's got a decent start, as Lyall may have to defend from Walton going into it, and they are nearly 4 or 5 wide. I said that they behaved themselves in race 1 because of the racing, the brief beforehand, and it looks like they've ignored it going into race number 2. Whoever thought that 5 wide would make a decent spectacle or a decent plan was foolish. Josh Martin in 4th place, though, with I think that's Brad Smith in 5th, Olivia in 6th, Craig Curtis up to 7th, and that means we have lost Jack Smith, tumbling down the order. Thomas Potter's moved up 1, but Josh Martin from 11th place on the grid up to 4th is an illustration of the carnage that did ensue just inside that top 10. Lee Piercy and Adam Lyall, Stuart Walton, Sam Walton. I always say Stuart. I used to have a teacher called Mr. Walton. His first name was Stuart. I do apologise for Sam. Well up ahead, but Sam Walton has just fallen off the circuit multiple times and will not rejoin it where he left it. He is dropping well down. He'll drop outside the top 10. He couldn't have done it on a worse corner, unfortunately, for Sam, because he was doing a really good job. That start was very nice indeed. Speaking of nice starts, these two did a stunning job. I said that there's not many race winners or the drivers that you would expect to take race victories inside the top 10, which is exactly what we want to see in a reverse grid, because it does mean other drivers get that opportunity, have their moment in the spotlight, 15 minutes of fame, all that sort of thing, and we get to speak about a few more drivers as well. And I'm sure everybody in the YouTube chat, everybody loves a bit of an underdog story. These reverse grid races are always fantastic for that. So yeah, Adam Lyall, Lee Piercy, with an opportunity here to make a bit of a name for themselves. They will be fully aware of how quick the likes of Joel Lask and Ben Smith have gotten up to 6th and 7th. How quick Josh Martin can be on his day, even if he hasn't had many of those days recently. He'll be the first to admit that, I'm sure. But there's lots of racing to go now. We've only had 1 full lap. We've got about half a lap into this one, and it looks like Lee Piercy just pulling away slightly from Adam Lyall, doing a decent job at maintaining that consistency, trying to hit those apexes where Adam Lyall looking a little bit more wayward. Later apexes, but he didn't quite get there either, whereas Josh Martin's keeping it clean. He's gained about half a second, actually, over the course of this lap. Craig Curtis in 5th as well. It'd be interesting to see what Craig can do, considering he had that unfortunate moment in race number 1. He did a stunning job a week ago, which has meant that he's he's in a decent championship position. Not anything to quite get excited about just yet. He's in 4th. He's only a couple of points behind Ben Smith. He obviously hasn't had a night to remember just yet. He's ahead of Scott Bugner by quite some distance. He really needs a good second race here, does Craig, to sort of maintain where he is in the championship order for the time being. There's our race 1 winner, Ben Smith, behind Joel Lask. Now, Joel is relatively quick. I don't think Ben will mind being behind him for the time being, as long as he probably doesn't want to be behind him going for the last couple of minutes, though. He'll be hoping to use Joel Lask as a bit of an opportunistic driver, carve his way through the field and see what happens later in the race. I think we may well have seen, I don't know if it's a timing glitch, but we may well have seen a change for first place with Adam Lyall ahead of Lee Piercy. In fact, we have, so I can only assume it was something to do with Lee Piercy falling off the circuit somewhere, out-braking himself potentially. But Adam Lyall, who wasn't really close enough to be making any kind of move, is now ahead by about the same distance that he was behind a lap ago. All that has meant that Josh Martin, though, has gained yet another half a second and is right on the back of these front two. Just having a look, we mentioned, I think it's Scott Bugner who mentioned the fastest lap of the race from race number 1. I'll be honest, I don't know who got it, but I will keep a concerted eye out on race number 2 to see who may well be in the running for it. As Lee Piercy almost rear ends Adam Lyall after he got on the hybrid. Of course, the hybrid not available in the first lap. You can use it every lap afterwards. And a few drivers obviously opting to try and use it at a specific time. Scott Bugner said he probably used a few too many earlier on to get past, get through the order. And whereas Ben Smith managed to actually only use 14 out of the allocated 15. Josh Martin deciding not to use the hybrid at all on that start-finish straight, waiting, hoping that just being in no man's land, watching the two ahead of him fight will give him an opportunity. Get on the hybrid later, save a few of them up. They'll slow each other down naturally, and he'll be in a position to really hurt them later in the race. But that hybrid is probably worth about half a second a lap. So you can't be hung out to dry too much. You can't be waiting, doing that plan, and then someone catch up to you behind. Joel Lask inside the top 5. Ben Smith just... oh, no, they're next to each other again. It is Ben Smith just behind. They've both overtaken Brad Smith, who on the timing tower is still confusing, but luckily, thanks to the fact that Brad Smith now has a bright orange car, it does help distinguish the two drivers. Craig Curtis in 4th, as I said, is not bad at all, and still outscoring the likes of Jack Smith. Oliver Gibson is a driver who I haven't mentioned so far this second race. Currently sat down in 12th position, just behind Olivia. No, it's not behind Olivia. It's behind Gillian Christian. So 11th place battle, not quite the top 10. Oliver Gibson maybe just biding his time. He'll probably slowly pick them off. Maybe expecting about a 7th place finish as Christian is gotten overtaken by Andy Carroll, who I've been assured is a bit of an Oschersleben specialist. And Jack Smith takes about and overtakes both of them. It's the Jack Smith we know, and Dunky Hope, there's a couple of connection issues maybe plaguing us once more, but Smith, yeah, is ahead of the car taking off into the first corner. As they get back on the circuit, everything calms down for touch again. We can see that Jack Smith has gotten past both Andy Carroll couldn't quite get past, but Jack Smith took advantage of two drivers there and did a pretty decent job of securing himself an 11th position, and Oliver Gibson in 10th. Josh Martin has caught right up to the back of these drivers, and well, Rich, I know you're sort of busy with the broadcast and everything, but I was hoping for a little bit of a rundown of the hybrid usages. Wow. Yeah, no, Oliver Gibson essentially doing the smart move that a lot of people will probably be trying to copy and paste, and maybe one of those drivers is Josh Martin, who can now see Lee Piercy just ahead of him the problem with Josh is he may well have been saving those hybrids. He didn't feel like he needed to use them too much. But, oh, Adam Lyall just stacked it and is now in 4th place. He could just, yeah, he was just parked on the right-hand side, which is really strange because the circuit definitely doesn't go that way. That physics wouldn't want to take you where Adam Lyall ended up. So I've no idea how he did that. I don't know if he hit the curb too hard, but it pulled his car round and went into the side. I'm not entirely sure, but that's going to be a weird one to watch back. Can now just work his magic and go forward. What was that, Rich? Sorry. It was, yeah. As I said in the early stages, it was an opportunity really for Lee Piercy and Adam Lyall to have their moment in the spotlight, sort of thing. And I think, to be fair, they had a decent moment, but I'm sure both of them would rather sit on the top step of the podium than just lead or be in the mix for the first 10 minutes or 9 minutes or whatever it was. But Lee Piercy's still doing a great job. Josh Martin is doing a pretty stellar job, but unfortunately for all of them, they've now got Ben Smith in 4th position. My prediction would be Ben Smith to get the race victory based on paper, but I'm also interested to see now he's gotten through maybe people. I think he's gotten through a lot of people falling off the circuit. Can he get through? And he did get through Joel Lask, to be fair, as well. But can he get through Craig Curtis, Josh Martin, Lee Piercy without making the mistakes, without waiting for the mistakes? I mean, they may well still make mistakes, to be fair, but it's more unlikely the further forward in the field you go, obviously. We haven't mentioned Thomas Potter so far in this race, but he's up for 6th place. Not bad, quite far off Joel Lask, but if he shows the pace he had in race 1, he may well take advantage of a lot of drivers who start falling over each other, because Joel Lask is looking interested in Ben Smith, as we'll just get back to that. Adam Lyall is being overtaken by Scott Bugner, so Adam Lyall's moment in the sun is unfortunately setting, and we will see him go back down, potentially outside the top 10 as he's got Chris Blakey and Oliver Gibson. But just one last word on Adam, he did do a great job in the first 10 minutes, so hopefully we'll see reverse grids with him right at the sharp end again, and without it ending in a bit of a sour note, shall we say. But yeah, as I was mentioning there, Rich, the Thomas Potter, he's if he shows us just as much pace as he had in race 1, he could have an opportunity. Oh, really? Yeah. It is, but if you have a look at Craig Curtis, he's now just, well, he's currently using his 7th hybrid, so he's only got 6 remaining, whereas Josh is still in double figures, even though he was already on one. So the likelihood is Craig took that time out of him by maybe using 1 or 2 more hybrids than the rest of them did, and Josh is certainly trying to do the smart move here, because I think Lee Piercy's only got 6 ahead of him as well. Now, Ben Smith is on 9, Joel Lask is on 10. Wow, so yeah, I'm going to put it out there. Josh Martin, Ben Smith, Joel Lask, I think top 3. I am not going to say in which order though. I'm not going to say it so far, and I think, to be fair, it's slightly disrespecting Lee Piercy and Craig Curtis, but based on previous efforts and based on the hybrids that they've got left mainly, I think that potentially could be our top 3, but we'll have to wait and see. Because Craig Curtis is crawling all over the back of Josh Martin, and that prediction won't come true if one of them gets span off. Are you really? Do you reckon? And he's gonna, I'll tell you what he'll do as well. He'll come in and he'll claim that it was the plan all along. Of course he will. He'll come in and he'll say, you know what, I couldn't get anything in qualifying because I'm terrible at qualifying. That'll be the first thing he says. The second thing will be, so he just wanted a good reverse grid position, and the third thing was it all came to plan. That'll be the structure of the Josh Martin interview. I can pretty much guarantee it. That is classic Josh, isn't it? I want to win the practice. To be fair, people want to win everything, don't they? But yeah, you take any kind of position you can, really. I've been told that potentially Catherine Potter says in the YouTube chat that she said, not sure the commentators realise that we can't hear one of them. Oh, well, I'll give it a good go. It's always nice to have you in there, Rich. Catherine, if it is the case of can you hear me or can you hear Rich, do let us know which one in the YouTube chat as well, please, just so we can get those little niggly bits just sorted out as best we can. Josh Martin 0.7 seconds away from Lee Pearcey, but look behind because Craig Curtis, Ben Smith and Joel Lask are all starting to fall over each other. Craig Curtis now being overtaken by Ben Smith. And that gives the opportunity to Joel Lask to potentially get through as well, but it also means that Ben Smith could pull further away and could start reeling in Josh Martin, and that would be potentially... Oh, yeah, there we go. They can't hear Rich, apparently. Sorry, Richard. Oh, Richard. Oh, God, don't like calling him Richard. It makes it sound like I've got Richard John Neal in the booth. No, bit of a shame there, but... luckily, I mean, Rich was obviously giving us lots of insightful twaddle, so don't worry. He's having other ideas. No, well, Dave has just called me a bit of a schizo, thinking I was talking to myself. So, to be fair, Dave, that's what I do anyway. Live by myself. You might as well just keep talking. How do you think I fell into this job? But anyway, Lee Pearcey is less than half a second in front of Josh Martin, and that's a bit of an issue for Lee Pearcey. But he has done a properly good job. 15 minutes to lead this race. Back in the day, an old VRRC that would have been good enough to win a race. Josh Martin gets too late on the brakes and almost went into the back of Lee Pearcey. Behind, this is almost becoming a five-way battle, isn't it? And however long Lee Pearcey can hold on to this race lead means we may well actually see a bit of a kerfuffle behind and an opportunity to take that race victory. And well, Lee, I think that's his potentially the best opportunity for him. Hello, the commentator, says Max Wright. Hello to Max Wright. Who are you supporting, Max? I haven't actually been able to keep up with the YouTube chat much today. But it's always nice to see some new people in there, and fingers crossed you're enjoying what you see. And if you're any of the top 5 drivers, if you're supporting any of them, then I'm sure you are enjoying it right now. If you're a Thomas Potter fan, maybe not. I know we've got a fair few of them in here today, but to be fair, he is potentially going to finish in 6th place, which is still not a bad result for a driver who didn't have the best race one. We could be seeing a change for the race lead, though, as Lee Pearcey gets lunged on the inside and tapped around by Josh Martin, who ends up falling off the circuit himself. And, well, Josh Martin, I wasn't building up to that move because I didn't think it was on. All of a sudden, he tried to go for it, and I was sort of watching it from between closed eyes, to be honest, because I just didn't see that one really ever coming off. It's gifted Ben Smith a race lead. It's taken a race lead away from Lee Pearcey, who I'm sure will be absolutely fuming. I'm sure Dave will find it hilarious in the YouTube chat, but no one else will be enjoying that one, unfortunately. Craig Curtis is in 3rd place still. Joel Lask has moved himself up to 2nd. You can't, from Ben Smith's perspective, it's the perfect thing that could have happened. I'm sure he would have liked it. A little bit more of a close quarter racing. He is a racer at heart, as Ben Smith, but a race victory is what he needs to try and catch up to the rest of the championship. So, what does that look like further back? Well, Josh Martin did rejoin in 5th position, but he's got Thomas Potter now crawling all over the back of him. So any of the Teapot fans out there will mean that we can see a little bit more of him going to this one, and his eyes will have lit up, I'm sure. He needs to keep himself nice and calm. He needs to keep those shoulders down, is what I always say. Focus on a big deep breath, keep the shoulders down. That automatically helps you relax. If your shoulders are tense, you just don't hold the steering wheel in the right way, and that's weirdly one of those finicky things that actually is really important when it comes to driving and having a firm grip, but also quite nice loose sort of arms, so you can really be smooth. As soon as you tense up, everything goes a bit jagged, you start fighting with the car. it's a disaster waiting to happen, to be honest. So let's hope that young Thomas can keep those words in mind, keep it nice and loose, arms nice and strong, but strong is different to tense constantly. So yeah, we'll see as we go through the rest of this race. Having a look at the timing screens at the fastest lap, just before what I believe will be a bit of an ignition of battles with Ben Smith and Joel Lask. So just before we get to there, the best lap of the race, I'm searching down currently, and I think from what I can see, it's a 1 minute 35, and at the moment I think it is Ben Smith with a 1:35.8. A couple of people in the 1:35.9s. Scott Bugner's one of them. Joel Lask is very close to being in the 0.8. I think Thomas Potter's with 36.3, so not quite as close. Andy Cowell at 35.9. I actually see what happened to Andy Cowell in the end. Unless we didn't, it went over my head. That can happen with these solo commentators quite a lot. But yeah, Ben Smith taking an extra 3 points as well as potentially 2 race victories. And he may well have taken 3 points in the first race as well that we didn't obviously quite see. I think Scott Bugner was pretty confident he got the fastest lap. But if it's as close as it is now, then he may well have been wrong. So an awful amount of points haul going his way if it stays like it is. Speaking of points hauls, Jack Smith isn't getting really many. 10th place, nowhere near fastest lap, struggled in race 1, in no man's land in race 2. All the hybrids nearly used up. It's not like he stored them all to have a big lunge at the end. 5 seconds off Chris Blakey. Not sure what's happened to Jack Smith this weekend, this evening even. I keep getting that mixed up. This is driving me at the wall. But drivers who hopefully won't get mixed up with each other is Joel Lask and Ben Smith. Ben Smith having to defend going into turn 1, launches over the curve that will potentially run it wide. Gets good momentum, but I think Joel Lask having that inside may well just about take this first place. A little bit of a drift on the exit. He's hung him out to dry. Ben Smith will have to settle down into 2nd place, but he's got 2 more hybrid activations than Joel Lask does. I wonder if he knows that, because if he did, he'd probably feel a little bit better about being overtaken 5 minutes ago. Joel with only 2 hybrids, Ben Smith with 4. And I think there's probably about 3 laps remaining, probably 4 laps remaining actually. We'll probably finish this one and then 3 more. Craig Curtis is still in 3rd, yes. So the ghost of Rich Hayden is telling us that Craig Curtis, yeah, absolutely is still in 3rd and probably going to keep hold of it, because Lee Pearcey, who after being nudged off by Josh Martin, is in 4th place still, but only has 1 hybrid remaining. Now their old foes are back at it again, and Josh deciding to try and go around the outside and go to the inside, see what happens. Scott Bugner's there for taking as well, and Josh Martin is a little bit more legitimately at the inside of Lee Pearcey this time, and Lee smashes the curb. Has a great move by Scott Bugner. Oh, this could be an absolutely worldy move by Bugner if he can get both of them. Can't quite do it there. Going into the final corner, there was a BMW 1 Series space through the middle of Lee Pearcey. Josh Martin. Pearcey gives him a nudge. Josh Martin goes off. As, well, that was a bit of a shame, because it looked like it was really clean. But look who's just gone through. Oliver Gibson absolutely flies through up into 4th place. Scott Bugner in 5th, Lee Pearcey in 6th. Josh Martin's dropped down to 7th and is out of this little battle for the time being. Pearcey lunges one back up the inside of Bugner into the first corner. Bugner rides that one out this time, and it's a bit of a shame for Josh, really, because he sort of got bullied out of that one, but I don't think Lee Pearcey's probably going to apologise too much after the first one. So we'll wait and see what the Monday debrief has in store for that one. Joel Lask is pulled away from Ben Smith by the tune of about half a second, but there is still 2 hybrids advantage for Ben Smith. So again, you got to take these sort of gaps with a pinch of salt, and Ben, without using any hybrid, is actually just pulled up quite nicely to the back of Joel. So I think Joel may well be a bit of a duck, but you might see the opportunity. It's a bit like DRS, isn't it? It's sort of you're waiting, it's inevitable. But look at that, Ben Smith not even wanting to use it to get back past Joel. Joel not using it to defend. He's probably looking at his rearview mirrors thinking, when do I use it? If I don't have to use it to defend, what's the point in using it? You've got to keep it in the locker. If they knew what hybrids each of them had, and I was Ben Smith, I would sacrifice one just to make Joel Lask use his last one to defend. But then Joel may well use it as a bluff. He may well call the bluff. He's defending. He's trying to white line it as Ben Smith does use the hybrid and does get up the inside. And Joel Lask does call the bluff. He doesn't want to use it. He doesn't mind losing first place if it means he can keep hold of that one hybrid he's got remaining. So the difference is only one between them now. Ben Smith with 2, Joel Lask with 1, Craig Curtis with 1, Oliver Gibson with 1, Bugner with 1, Blakey with 1, Lee Piercy with 0. That's as far back as we can probably realistically go for any kind of fights inside the top 10. Josh Martin's dropped down to 8th position, of course, and he's actually back onto the back of Lee Piercy, in all fairness. I'm genuinely a bit nervous. At least they're 1 for 1 at the moment. I don't want anybody to go for a best of 3 position here. Lee Piercy takes himself off, and you know what? If you can't, that's the only way you can draw a best of 3 is if you decide to take yourself off instead. That's a real shame, Pace. And if it wasn't for the fact that he got a little bit of contact, if it wasn't for the fact that maybe there was a bit more contact later in the race, he would be thoroughly on for one of my driver of the rounds as well. But yeah, a bit of a shame that for Lee Piercy. I think there's probably an obvious candidate who's going to be top runner for driver of the round, and they haven't won it yet so far this season. My vote, I know I'm supposed to put this in the YouTube chat, in the Discord, but my personal vote, and Rich has a vote as well, and we will discuss it in the Discord, was probably going towards Ben Smith, because I haven't seen him make contact. He's qualified in pole position. He's won both races. And although we don't like to always just give it to the obvious candidate, he is also the obvious candidate, especially if he hasn't won it before. So that's my little 2 cents, Rich. I look forward to seeing what you put in the Discord as well about any other drivers who really caught your eye. And any drivers in the YouTube chat as well, actually. If anybody out there has sort of caught your eye as well. I know a lot of people will probably be voting for their favourite driver. But it's one of those, if you can put your objective hat on and see who's been the most impressive, who's got you out your seat, who's been the driver who's really entertained us so far this season, and do let us know who you've enjoyed watching so far. The clock timer has ticked down to 0. That means the next time round that Ben Smith sees the start-finish line, he will also see a checkered flag being thrown across it. And, well, who can argue with Ben Smith's dominance this evening? A couple of drivers have tried to have answers. They've all fallen by the wayside, and I said that we might well speak to him after race 2, and as long as he doesn't shock it off in the last half a lap, I think we may well end up seeing a double race winner here at Oschersleben. Oh, there we go. I've just heard a participation from Rich. I don't know if you guys heard that one, but we will reveal all. Sorry? No, we don't think you heard that one from Rich, but so it's we will reveal all of what the discussions we've been having behind the scenes in a couple of minutes' time. In fact, why not announce it now? The perfect way to wrap up this round at Oschersleben is driver of the round Ben Smith taking the race victory here for the 2nd time this evening. Joel Lask was in 2nd. Craig Curtis ended up in 3rd, actually, rescuing a bit of a sorry night for him. As Oliver Gibson in 4th, Scott Bugner in 5th, Chris Blakey in 6th, Josh Martin 7th in the end. Jack Smith ended up, in 8th, actually. So not the end of the world, but nowhere near his standards, and especially picking up points. He probably will lose some weight now, though, at least, which will probably be a blessing in disguise. Lee Piercy in 9th. He was definitely one of the drivers that was on our screen the majority of the time. And Andy Carroll, the Oschersleben specialist, didn't quite have the round he was hoping for. He ends up in 10th place. We're going to go to a quick advert now before we get chatting to Ben Smith yet again, Joel Lask and Craig Curtis in a couple of minutes' time. So, race 2 and the 5th round of the BMW 135M Cup is over and out. But we can now chat to a couple of our drivers who had a more enjoyable race 2 than some others. And, well, Craig Curtis, we're going to start with you. 3rd place. That was a hectic series of events, wasn't it? I mean, you managed to keep your nose clean, the best of all, probably. But talk us through it from your perspective.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know why I haven't been able to replicate my pace in practice early this week. I just, for some reason, the car just felt different. I know that sounds weird on a game, but I just could not hook the car up for a good lap. And so qualifying was quite disappointing. Race 1, obviously got spun around, but I think recovered the P9. But yeah, reverse grid, I was dreading this all week, to be fair. But in all honesty, it wasn't so bad. Managed to avoid, and I think I was in the top 7 or 8, and then just slowly worked my way through the pack. And I think it was Josh and Lee up ahead, and then I had Ben and Joel then behind me. So I thought, well, do I look at my mirrors or do I look ahead? But yeah, it's just so difficult to get a rhythm around here. So, but yeah, but happy with the podium again. Hopefully some good points, and looking forward to next week already.
Always look ahead, Craig. Never look in your mirrors. Never look in your mirrors. That's what always got banged on at me anyway when I was racing. But yeah, no, it was, I mean, solid points. You sound like you enjoyed it. That's everything that we were hoping for, really, isn't it? And you were talking about solid points there as well. You're on 138, and I can tell you that is still within, well, it's 18 points behind championship leader. You're still in 4th, but it's been a good evening for you, hasn't it? I mean, you've caught up massively to the likes of Jack Smith. You're only, I think that's 7 points behind him now. So that's good company to be keeping.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. I think since the start of the championship, how high up I am. To be fair, I've altered my nickname to Nosebleed on the Discord chat because I've never been used to being this high in the championship. So
I was wondering what that was about.
But yeah, it is good. I mean, obviously these guys are rapid all the time, every time. So I need to make sure that there's 3 races left now, and hopefully again just aim for maximum positions and maximum points, and we'll see where we are after the last race. So hopefully, from here on in, knock wood, I'll again, like as you said, keep my nose clean and just get a couple of podiums. I'll be happy.
Well, we'll all be happy for you as well, Craig. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, obviously the guys who were watching the live stream, and obviously Rich I know he's had a headache this evening with the live stream and the commentary, so obviously our hearts go out to him. But yeah, obviously want to give a shout out again to Leighton and Kim, so they watch it without fail every week, and yeah, just good to entertain them, I guess.
Well, you certainly entertain not only them but the rest of us as well, Craig. Big congratulations on the podium. Going the way you are, we'll probably be speaking to you next week.
Fingers crossed. Thank you, Jack.
Right, so Craig Curtis came in, had a chat. Happy chat by the sounds of it as well, and that means we can move on to our next podium sitter. It's 2nd place man, Joel Lask, with the number 1 on the side of your car. Joel, I imagine you'd be slightly disappointed not to be on the top step, but all in all, I mean, for a reverse grid to get through like that is something to be pleased about.
Yeah, I must admit that was a bit of a tough gig. I knew that the Ben was going to be quick anyway. I knew that he was going to send some crazy moves, and I knew he had the pace. And unfortunately, I just couldn't match that this evening. But it was nice to get through the pack, and little to no contact with people. So I mean, it was a good, clean, fair race. But I just didn't have the pace on Ben.
I was going to say you did get past Ben, didn't you? But were you aware that maybe you used probably a few too many hybrids going into those last 2 or 3 minutes?
No, to be fair, I mean, in the first race, I definitely used too many, so I was a bit more conservative in the second race and just used people's toe. But yeah, in the second one, I thought, I'm sort of trying to count the amount of hybrids that he was using. I think he used more than me, sort of in the first half of the race, and I had the pace to sort of keep with him, so that was nice. But then, yeah, unfortunately, his true pace came out, and yeah, I just couldn't keep up with that.
Phoenix Sim Racing is somewhat dominating the championship in a lot of ways in terms of the numbers on the grids, and we've seen waves of different teams come in with plenty of drivers and everything like that, and it looks like Phoenix coming in strong with a whole host of drivers into VRRC. It's nice to see that, isn't it? What's it like to be that part of that sort of little sub-community in amongst the VRRC community?
Yeah, I mean, it's lovely. You know, Stu's done a lot of work with the team and helping and supporting to make people faster and help out with setups and things like that, and you know, put on a good show. I mean, yeah, look, a bunch of quick drivers that are up and coming. It's great to represent them and represent Stu and you know what the team stands for. So yeah, it's been good.
Fantastic. Well, a big congratulations on the second place, Joel, and I'm sure we'll be speaking to you next week. But is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, just Phoenix Sim Racing and obviously he works tirelessly to make sure we're in the right place and help and support us where he needs to. So big shout out to him, and let's see what we can do for the rest of the races.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Joel. We'll speak to you next week.
Awesome. Cheers, mate.
So, Joel, Lask gone. That means there's one more driver to talk to. It's a driver we've already spoken to a fair few times this evening. It's Ben Smith. Ben, big congratulations on the race win. I mean, you probably weren't expecting it because no one ever expects it after a reverse grid, but you managed to survive the carnage. You managed to get your way through, and the pace shone at the end there, just like Joel said, a perfect evening.
Yeah, it couldn't have gone better really. Even nicked the fastest lap on the last one as well. So I'm really happy about that. Yeah, like you say, I managed to avoid the carnage near the start. Lap 2 or 3, I almost killed Joel, and I was into the first corner. Massive squeaky bum time there, but just about managed to keep it out of him. And then me and him had a nice fair battle, to be fair. Quite enjoyed it, and thankfully came out on top.
Well, I can safely say that there is a Smith on top of the championship table, but this time it's not Jack, it's yourself. That must mean you're going to get added some weight on board. That means there's a target on the back of your car as well, which I always think is worth about 20 kilos. That must, I mean, the preparations going into next week, do you think they'll change at all? The practice or preparation or any, or mindset or anything?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. I'm never one for doing loads and loads of laps and burning myself out. I just do enough to get a good rhythm going with the track, and then that suits me. And hopefully the ballast shouldn't make too much of a difference, but whatever happens, I'm sure Jack will be fast again, and then Joel and Oliver will still be sticking with us. So it'll certainly be a good fight.
There's actually a fight for the top, well, sorry, I'll repeat this. The top 5 drivers in the championship are actually all in at the fight for the overall championship. I think there's 24 points or something like that between you. So the opportunity to finish 1st or 5th, I mean, they're all prize-giving positions, but which prize would you like the most? And the correct answer is the VRRC cap, of course. But, you know, aside from your allegiance to VRRC, which one would you like best?
Oh, blimey. I think the monitors would definitely suit me, because I currently have my wheels set up on. I don't know. Do you just like the feel of the space for a proper rig in my